Welcome to the podcast. I am hanging out with Max Power. I want to put that in quotation marks because I'm still not sure that's your real name. And if it is your real name, it's probably the coolest name ever. So I met Max a couple of weeks ago when I was up in the Columbia Valley. And as soon as I met you, Max, I'm like, I need to have this guy on the podcast because there's just something about you that I need to know more about. But how are you doing today?
No trouble yet.
Yeah. It's still like, it's only noon. So
yeah,
if you've already gotten into trouble.
I always say I'm a man, I'm a guy, we're always in trouble one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
And my name, actually, to my name, if you want to get to it, my name is not Max Power. My name is Max Powers.
Oh, Max Powers, sorry.
Max Powers, so that's one thing. And this is not I call it my maiden name.
Yeah.
My maiden name is actually, my birth name is actually Fundal. Max Fundal. And about 6 years ago, when my wife finally decided after 19 years to marry me, and then I decided to take her name and her kids, like our kids have now a 19 and a 20-year-old, they both took her name as well.
Nice. When the last name is Powers, I feel like you just kind of have to take that name. If that's an option, you take it.
Well, I think there's two things to it, right? The one part is if you want to have the name Max Powers, you're going to be prepared that people actually expect a lot from you. So that's kind of one thing. But at the same time, I don't take life way too serious, and I think it is just a fun thing actually to play and work with the name Max Powers, and I'm kind of a little sarcastic guy and a bit of a fun guy that way, and I enjoy life that way. And so that's why I thought, like, well, you have to take that and just go for it, right?
Absolutely, 100%. So you live in the Columbia Valley in the Invermere area, but something about your accent tells me that you weren't born and raised there. So where are you from originally?
Well, I always say I don't have an accent, right? And my kids always said, like, no, my dad doesn't have an accent. He always sounds like that, right?
Yeah.
I actually think everybody else has an accent, not me.
Yeah, this is true. Very, very egotistical of you, but no.
So I'm actually from the Bavarian Alps. So it's the side of the Alps. And that's where I am from. And I think, I can't remember exactly. It must have been 24 or so. That's when I came to Canada for a holiday, and I'm still here.
Wow. That's a hell of a visa you must have got to get here. So what about Canada made you stay here? Because I'm always fascinated when people come from different parts of the world. Bavaria, I was there as a teenager, and it's beautiful, right? You have the mountains, you have the Alps. What was it about Canada and specifically the Columbia Valley that made you want to stay?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is, I know Bavaria. I come right from the area where this fairy tale castle is from, like Schloss Neuschwanstein, and it's a very beautiful area. But I think if you have everyday steak, you don't know how good steak is, right? So everybody has to go somewhere else sometimes. I worked there the last several years. I worked as a flight instructor and test pilot for paragliding, and actually I was one of the first of the pioneers of the sport in paragliding in Germany and Austria or in Europe. And but I did this to a level where it was almost too much. I think we taught over 2,000 people in about 4 or 5 years. And it was just insane. And then I came here for a holiday. And then when I came here, I go like, whoa, things are way more relaxed here, right? And that's what I needed. So I needed something to just wind down a little bit. And then at the same time, that friendliness of the Canadians, which really struck me right away. And I was first in Calgary. And I have to say, in Calgary, it didn't matter where you came from. Everybody just hugged you right away and says, oh, welcome here in Canada. It's a great place here. And you can be who you are. And nobody's questioning you about whatever local traditions you might have or not have, right? And in Europe, especially, in any little corner, wherever you are, even if you live in a certain place for 20 years, you will never be a local. you will never be accepted as a local. And it's very stubborn and very, stubborn, very set in their way. And that's what I liked about Canada so much, is like, I actually can be whoever I want to be. And even my accent, nobody really cares about it. And if anything, they find it cool.
Yeah.
And then the multi cultures we have here in Canada, and they all get accepted. And that's what really made me to become actually on the end a very proud Canadian. I don't even have a German citizenship anymore since the mid-90s.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. That's cool. It's just, it's always fascinating to know what is the appeal to Canada? Because like you said, because I'm here, I obviously sometimes I can't see what you see from coming from a different country. So, you're kind of a lot of things. You're a pilot, you're an entrepreneur, you're into extreme sports. I wanted to ask you about the extreme sports because you competed in what's called the Red Bull. What is it called? The Red Bull Alps?
X-Alps.
Yeah. X-Alps. Yeah. So what was that? Because it sounds like something that I am not physically capable of participating in.
Me neither. So the Red Bull X-Alps started in 2005, and it's an idea from Hannes Ark, as one of the Red Bull pilots. And so really, way back then in the 80s when we started paragliding, all we really used was more like a skydive chute. And for my inspiration back then was I'd like to climb and go high into the high alpine areas as a young person already. I think I climbed my first 4,000 meter mountains when I was 12 years old. But the hardest part is coming down. And so that's when I got into the paragliding, when somebody showed me kind of a parachute to get off the mountain quick. That was my inspiration to get into that sport. Mm-hmm. But then that sport seems and was evolving fairly fast. It was not just about flying down. It was on how long you could fly. And it also was on how far you could fly. And then it became a cool idea actually to see, could I actually cross the Alps from Salzburg to Monaco by foot or only in the air? And so a couple of people did that. That's what we call today hike and fly. So you hike up a certain place, take off from there, and based on the weather conditions, you fly maybe 50, 100, 150, 200 kilometers a day, land somewhere in between, maybe have to hike up again, and then at the end of the day, you just keep going day by day until you reach your goal. Mm-hmm. And so these guys made then a competition out of it in 2005, and they select only 30 athletes from around the world to say, okay, we give you a route from Salzburg to Monaco, and that could be, let's say you have to go first to the Dachstein Glacier, like from the Mozartplatz to the Geisberg to the Dachstein to the Italian Dolomites, then back to Germany to the Zugspitze, the Eigen North Face, Matterhorn, Mont Blanc, all these big mountains, right? Mm-hmm. You have to cross these mountains or these turn points and then have to get down to Monaco on the end. And that's what they made as a competition. And and that back then it was more like an adventure. There was not much GPS available in 2005 and 2007, right? Mm-hmm. So we did it all by maps and hike and fly. You carry up your own gear and just go day and night like that.
That's cool. And how many times did you participate in that?
4 times.
4 times?
Yeah. So they do it every second year. They don't do it every year. They give you a year to recover. Yeah. And to get back to it. I mean, the hiking and the mental part. I mean, back then it used to be open 24/7. Right. And some guys they hike up to 100 kilometers a day in distance. Mm-hmm. I maybe did only 35 to 80 kilometers a day. And then we climb up to 4,000, 4,500 meters a day in elevation. Yeah. And then fly every day. And we do this for about 10 days, 2 weeks every day.
Wow. And so what's the end, like how, like say the person that wins it, like what is the amount of time that it takes for that person to complete this?
So the how they do it is actually now they put on 2 weeks. I think that's what I do now.
Right.
And today is a complete different race. It's all like based on your apps. The apps, they show you exactly where the thermals are, what's the ideal route to fly, the ideal ways to hike, and where the next takeoff spots are. And so they give you today 2 weeks, right?
Right.
And the winners, they do it in about, I would say 7 to 10 days, something like that.
Yeah.
But back then when we had the race, that was 24/7. And they made it so that the first person who made it in goal, you only have 48 hours after, and then they stop the race. And then wherever you are, then you get ranked that way.
Yeah. So what was the best that you were ranked in the 4 times that you did it?
I think it was, I always was in the middle pack. And I think the best one I did was, I think, 11th.
Awesome. That's cool. So just the idea of becoming a pilot, was that something that you just always wanted to be, like, as a kid?
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah.
I was walking around the soccer field, seeing myself higher up in a little mini helicopter or whatever it was, and looking down how they play soccer. So I always had that in my mind. And then also when I was hiking back with my family and whatever, I constantly was already involved back then with the hang gliding scene, and got my hands on some hang gliders as a young kid, like the first ones. And then I envisioned all the time, whoa, this would be a good spot to fly off from, and I don't have to walk down. So I always had that.
So when you moved to Canada, did you move here as a lifestyle change, or was it as a, like, for work, or what was it that brought you to Canada?
I came here first to visit a friend. That's what it was first. And then, as I said, I fell in love with the people and the country. Mm-hmm. And then especially with, from Calgary, I went then to Golden and Invermere area. And the Invermere area with the lakes and the river and the mountains and the flying and everything you can do. It just almost was like a spell on me, and that was it, right? Mm-hmm. For me, I came in actually as a paragliding instructor. Mm-hmm. I was actually would say one of the first or the first instructor in Canada, especially bringing all the knowledge over from Europe to Canada. So that's actually how I came in as a landed immigrant to Canada, and that was the big part, actually, to flying.
So you've always been, you became a pilot in Germany, but you've been a pilot, an active pilot, the whole time. And are you still, like, I know your one website is Flying Max. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, flyingmax.com.
Flyingmax.com.
It shows kind of more. So I evolved afterwards in 98 or so. I think I got my private pilot's license, and then I got a little Cessna going. And then I, through the hang gliding I used to do in the 80s, I got into the trike flying, like hang glider trikes with a motor on the back. I always joke about it. It's a flying lawnmower.
Yeah.
But really the engine and stuff what I have on there is actually a full-fledged aircraft engine. So it's full on. Then I'm also a powered paragliding instructor, like an ultralight instructor. Certified in Canada, and then I also did my glider rating, so I fly gliders as well. Mm-hmm. And eventually I think the only thing what's really missing is what I don't fly officially yet is a helicopter and a broom.
Yeah, well, never say never, right?
Yeah, well, if Harry Potter comes by, I want to take lessons and want to get his best broom, that's for sure, because they're way easier to park and you don't need a hanger.
So you're beyond just being a pilot, which is an amazing thing that I don't think I trust myself enough to ever become a pilot. It's the same thing as a motorbike. Like I picture if I ever owned a motorbike, I'd be leaving the dealership and I'd get T-boned instantly, and that would be my career as a motorbike driver. But same as a plane, I picture myself going up and then lasting about 30 seconds and then ending my career. So I'm always fascinated by people like you that have the confidence to do that. Outside of being a pilot, though, you're also an entrepreneur. You have where actually you and I met was the Columbia River Paddle, where you do tours along the area. And then you also have a company in the wintertime. What is it called? The gliding or that you do out of Panorama?
Oh, the tandem paragliding. So I
Yeah.
fly with skis. I always tell people, I'm too scared to fly myself, so that's why I clip them on me, and then we fly off the mountains on skis and land down at the driving range.
What I love about that is not knowing until I met you that's you that does that, because we go to Panorama every winter for a weekend out there to ski with the kids, and we always see it happening. And I'm like, I've never seen it at any other ski hill. So to me, it's always just fascinating to watch that. So that's you putting that all together.
Yeah.
I love that. Has being an entrepreneur always been a part of your kind of DNA as well, or is that something that kind of created out of necessity, or where did that come from?
That's a really good question, and sometimes I question myself about that, where and how things came from. The interesting part, really, what I find, how I evolved and how I came to all this, and I have to mention my wife into it, which she's now gone for a year and a half. And she had the same kind of outlook to life. And I just wanted to bring this in because with your comments, you're saying when you buy a motorbike and you feel like, I get off the yard and I get T-boned right away into something like that, right? We never, ever, ever have any thinking that way.
Okay.
Never. It doesn't even strike us from anything like that, right? For me, that kind of comment also means like, okay, I'm giving up my life and I go from a 5 to 9 job just to do my job. And Monday is a bad day, Wednesday is a hump day, and Friday is a good day, right?
Right.
That type of thing, right? And I refused always to be like this because I never wanted to be like that. Mm-hmm. And be it. For me, and how we actually see things is, wow, look at this. There's a motorbike there. Okay, there's traffic there. What can we do out of it? How can I get the most fun out of it? And how can this be rewarding and not hurting anybody else, or be actually fun for anybody else at the same time? And then sure, you have some things going through. Okay, there's a truck coming. I could T-bone into it, but I see more the vision. How can I avoid it? Right? Mm-hmm. Or how can I work with this whole situation? And I think that's kind of part of my entrepreneurial thinking. Whatever we did to some point, A, as a pilot, B, instructing, C, becoming a test pilot on the end and building and testing these wings. It's never about the thinking what can go wrong. It's more the thinking, what can I do out of it to stay safe so that I can do it tomorrow again. Right. And I think that's the same kind of thinking when I evolved. I'm actually a licensed carpenter in Germany. Mm-hmm. And from that one, I became an instructor. And then from an instructor, I came to Canada and then realized pretty quick, the population density is not the same like in Europe. There's no more thousands of students lining up and you don't have the infrastructure, right? Mm-hmm. So I had to fall back pretty quick to my carpenter skills, which are not the greatest. So, but I'm more like to see what can I do out of it. So I started in Invermere and opened a computer store because I was quite fascinated about computers. Mm-hmm. And then before I knew it, with the computer store, I set up networks, so it's systems way back then in the mid-90s, right? Mm-hmm. And then I run into a software called 3D Home Architect, which is actually today chief architect. Mm-hmm. And I started designing houses with my carpenter skills. And then before I knew it, I became a general contractor and built many houses at the golf courses. I developed 12 plexes and became a beta tester for software and set up designing companies and sold them plotters and computers. And that was a lot of fun that way, right? So I just thought like, okay, let's do the best out of it and have fun with it. Mm-hmm. And then before I knew it, the internet came on. And then with the internet, I go like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I finished one of the bigger building projects I did. And then I ended up buying a company or buying them out on the end. It's a company called discoveryweb.com. And then I was actually the guy who created BanffLakeLouiseTourism.com. I did all their internet marketing consulting, their design, their programming, their hosting, email, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. Did all the analytics for them, right? I was kind of spearheading this whole thing, and then ended up doing the same thing for Thompson Okanagan Tourism, Northern BC Tourism, Vancouver Island Tourism, Kootenay Rockies Tourism, Intrawest, Columbia Basin Trust. So I did a lot of things like that. And I just had fun with it and evolved with it. And then actually, the funny part was in 1999, actually was the founder of appointment.com.
Okay. Wow.
So you can schedule appointments online, like for massage therapists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back then you talk to somebody like this, they just thought like, you're not quite right. And so I just evolved into things like this on the end. And I think in 2007, I sold that to Navigator Multimedia and then the appointment software into the States. And then I went that path with Red Bull, doing the X-Alps from 2007 to 2013.
Wow. And that's the Red Bull one you're referring to there. Is that the one you were competing in?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the funny part really is that one. In the meantime, I was all over the place, and I met my wife in 2002. Mm-hmm. And while this was happening, and she was kind of the same kind of entrepreneurial thinker, and not just this, she was also a go-getter. Like she ran Canadian Mountain Experience in Banff, getting skiers and whatever in. And then when you put the two of us together, it just spun off into wild and crazier things. And that's where Canadian Mountain, the Columbia River Paddle came out of it.
Okay.
And that came out of it because she came here and from Banff, and she sold her company to Brewster. And then when she was out here, we had the first child, the daughter. And then shortly after, I don't know how that happened, she got pregnant again. And and she said, like, wow, I need to do something. And she found out that this business from Tim Strands was for sale. And she said, oh, that's what I want to take on while I have my kids. Nice. And so that was a small little rental operation, which she and myself on the end, we created this, what we have today with Columbia River Paddle.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. Is it Fiona that is kind of the main operator there right now?
Fiona is with the GM.
Yeah.
And Fiona, she works for us for at least 8 years now. So she was always the right hand for Penny. Yeah. And I'm kind of the backbone, to create or structure the company. And then I turned out to be the official gopher. Yeah. Yeah. So I go for this and go for that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But when I was there, when I first met you, because Fiona has 2 small kids that are running around. And I thought that was awesome, because I thought for those small kids, like, I don't think there's a better lifestyle than just hanging out at the river and floating, using the kayaks and the canoes at will kind of thing.
It's funny you say that. The person who started that up before, his name is Tim Strands.
Yeah.
And he is a total entrepreneur here for Invermere. He created that Strands restaurant, which is not here anymore. He created Pepe's Pizza here, which is a really cool place to go to for pizzas. And he created this businesses for his nephews. And so they took it over then on the end. And he owns a lot of buildings in town. And he is a very real good entrepreneur in town. And but one of his nephews didn't want to take Columbia River Paddle. That's what he started up, right?
Right.
And he started up also with 2 little kids, the same thing. So I still have an old picture on the door where his little kids right at the canoe shack, standing there or looking down to the shack there. And they were about maybe 5-6 years old. And so he ran that for several years. And then we took it over. And our second one was born when Penny took that on. And both of the kids were literally just primarily living and sleeping in the back shack there.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then Fiona keeps the tradition alive with her kids.
Yeah, Fiona came in, as I said, 7-8 years ago. And then when she got the kids, she actually backed off when they were little.
Okay.
And she worked from home primarily. and did all the background work for what we were doing, right? And then when the kids now got to the age where they're now, she decided to actually be more involved in it.
Yeah.
And then thank God, Penny and I, we tried already to kind of streamline or make it a bit easier on us and get Fiona a bit more into it. Yeah. And Fiona already decided then, we'll be a bit more involved in the operations. And then sadly, this happened with Penny that she passed. And then she stepped right into it, and thank God to Fiona that I have her and that she's virtually running the show for me. And I can still be the funny gopher in the back and do the guiding stuff, what I have done with you.
Yeah, exactly. That was an epic day for sure. When you think about being an entrepreneur, are there any, core principles that either maybe you learned from a mentor or that you just kind of learned the hard way and you kind of, you live by?
I think the most important thing is the people you hang out with. That's one of the big things. The people you hang out with, that's what you will be on the end to some point. I mean, if you hang out with a lot of entrepreneurs and like-minded people in sports and whatever, that's kind of the direction you will fall into it. And then the other thing is really, and I actually just do another little, we still do kind of little presentations and speeches and motivational things because of things what we have done. And I do just one here to a hockey group. And it's a very interesting point. I'm talking about language, especially how you talk to yourself. And so if you swear a lot and you complain a lot and you talk a lot of negative things why things don't work, and that can't work because of this and this idiot and blah, 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 blah. I always say, on the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, you do things what you listen to, and your mind listens to what you actually say. So you're going to be very careful what you say and how you structure things. As an example, I just see that way. It's way easier for me. A lot of people try to complain about the weather. It's either too hot, it's either too cold, it's too rainy, it's too, look at this weather, blah, 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 right? I always go it's a beautiful weather today. It's awesome. It's the best weather ever. Then look at me and say, if you bitch and complain about it, it doesn't get any better either. So might as well be happy about it.
Yeah.
And so be happy about what you actually see and then do the best out of it. There's always a good side somewhere what to do out of it. And I think that's the most important part as an entrepreneur is that you actually start talking to yourself in a positive way. What you see actually is, even for lots of people, it looks like bad or not good. You can make something good out of it. And that's what we see with a lot of entrepreneurs who go into certain niches. They see through all that negativity. They see something good and are able to pull that out and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really one of them who made the big thing, like some others, billionaires, whatever out there, what we have, right? But it certainly gives me a lot of, I feel like I'm living a really good life.
Yeah. I like that. I want to talk about family because even just with the short amount of time that when you brought us on our kayak tour, you did bring up family. It was obvious that family is important to you. And I asked you what are one of the biggest influences in your life, and you said, I'm just going to quote from the notes that you sent me. You said, "My wife and my kids. I thought I had a good life without them. Now having the kids and my wife, I would have missed life without them." So it's funny how before you have kids, you don't realize, you really don't realize what you're missing out on. As soon as you have kids, it's like, there's nothing. It's like, what was the world even like before these people came along?
Yeah. I mean, life is very interesting. If you don't have kids, you will not miss them either. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the beauty about life too. You still can be happy without kids. And, having kids can be very hard, extremely hard, especially if you don't have the right partnership. Right. And and I have two healthy kids on top of it. I mean, it's very easy to talk that way if you have it that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But quite frankly, for me it was. I mean, the funny part is, Penny and I, we were not even supposed to be together. When she came out here, or we connected through a friend, we had that kind of talk. Like, I went through a separation before, not a marriage separation, but it was kind of a lot of other things involved in it. And so she took a lot of things with her, which I still liked, like another airplane, right?
Yeah.
And so I was joking around and was just saying, like, okay, Penny, it would be great if you come out. And I knew her from before through business. And she had no interest in me whatsoever, because she thought I'm just like a tech nerd, how I talked about technology back then. And it went right over her head. And whenever I came to these meetings, she left the office and made sure she's not in that meeting. So anyhow, I knew she has nothing with me there. So I said to her, you know what? You bring some of your good-looking rich girlfriends from the Banff area. And she said, yeah, you hook me up with a guy in Invermere with a nice motorboat. I can go wakeboarding or skiing behind a boat on the weekends, and then we'll be all good. So we tried to hook up each other. And the problem was nobody liked us. So then we got stuck with each other, right? And that turned out to be the best thing ever, actually. Yeah. And then all of a sudden she got pregnant. And I go like, oh my God, that can't be. We didn't plan for it. We did things that this is not happening. And honestly, I was so scared. I was so scared. First of all, I didn't see her as a mother. Mm-hmm. She was not a mother. No, not at all. Not in the slightest. She was so busy with cross-country skis, skate skis, downhill skis, paraglider, bikes, and a truck. I always said, how can a kid fit in there? It doesn't even work, right? Yeah. I mean, on the end, it turned out she was the best mother I could ever ask for. Ever, right? And but anyhow, I was literally dreaming at night that I would be tied down on a railroad track and a train of kids going to run over me and I can't move, right? Yeah. And I was really scared. And she just took me aside there one day and says, Max, I think you're just scared of change. And she said to me, one favor, don't change. Because I don't want to have a father for my kids who is just on the end miserable that he had to change his life. Yeah. And she said, don't worry about me. Things will happen. They're coming to us and we only will do the best out of it. So I got a lot of things from her, even from that outlook, right? So we really spun off each other from that point. And then sure enough, I mean, we never discussed in how to raise kids and what to do with them. It just clicked. And it turned out into something so beautiful where I really say today, if I wouldn't have had these kids, I would have missed life 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have two kids, is that right? A daughter and a son?
I always talk about and say I have two kids I know of, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got together with her very late, right? Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that. So I have two kids, a boy 19 and a girl 21 now. And and I know I talked about it before she passed a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. And having these kids and having us together like this, it is such a strong, good support for all of us, right? Mm-hmm. Even today, that actually life is still beautiful. It is still good.
Absolutely. So your wife's name is Penny, and you mentioned, so because you have a very active outdoor life, and in Panorama, in that area, I feel like people either gravitate towards winter or summer sports. So you were saying to me that Penny was more of a winter sport kind of person. Is that right?
No, not really. No. Not only she was South African, right?
Okay.
So she had nothing to do with winter. From that point, she came over here first, I think, when she was 11 or 12 years old. Okay. Her family came over for whatever obvious reasons with South Africa back then. And eventually she got actually back to South Africa, to university there. She turned to be into a tennis pro. She actually played the ATP tour. She was one of the top 150 tennis players in the world.
Oh, wow.
So she was super active, very good, talented athlete. But then she did a trip down the kicking horse and got out of the boat and broke her arm on 17 places.
Oh, no.
Player's arm, yeah. And that took her literally out of the pro circuit. And then a year later, she didn't know what to do. And she just started traveling for 18 months with a backpack all over the world. She went like to Everest Base Camp in Thailand and whatever. And so she was always very adventurous that way.
Mm-hmm.
And for her sports perspective, she turned into into a big marathon runner and trail runner. And then with the winter sports, she got into the skiing and more in the Nordic skiing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Nordic skiing, she turned out one of the top girls in her age classes for the Nordic skiing masters. So she always was in the top 4 in the world.
Oh, wow.
And then, then CrossFit comes on and the running comes on and the biking comes on. So I called myself more like a couch potato compared to her.
Yeah. So, because you were mentioning living up in the Panorama area. Yeah, the cross-country skiing, that's what sort of struck me. I don't know what you called the morning adventures that you guys did.
Well, I call Nordic skiing, first of all, I call it misery sticks.
Yeah.
Because if you want to follow her, it's kind of a misery on the sticks when you try to get behind her.
Yeah.
So that's how I call this sport, misery sticks. And we skied a lot, a very lot. But back then, the kids, when we actually got the apartment up there and the 1 bedroom up there, I can't remember how many years ago. I always say, like, Penny always likes early morning. She used to like early morning quickies, right? And her early morning quickie was at 6 o'clock in the morning with the headlamps doing about a 15K plus Nordic ski run. And that's just a quickie to get started. And then the junior wanted to be up at 8:30 to be ready for the first chair. Mm-hmm. And then my daughter, she always wanted to get up in the crack of noon. And so you don't drive 25 minutes 3 times in the morning just to make that happen. And then with my flying up there, with the tandem flying, I said, like, well, let's take that money what we make with tandem flying and just rent the place up there full time. And then we spend our Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday in between up there. And it's like a holiday where we still can do our quickies and she still can get up in a crack of noon. And then eventually we actually got into purchasing a place there. And it's an amazing lifestyle. It's really cool.
Oh, I can imagine. It's a beautiful spot. So you're one of the things that struck me pretty quickly after I met you is, would you consider yourself a connector of people? It seems to me that's one of your kind of strengths.
It's interesting you say that because Fiona told me afterwards, she said, like, man, Max, you should be more a connector with the tourism businesses and put people in things together, right? Mm-hmm. I never thought that way, that I would be that way. I feel myself, I'm very enthusiastic when I do something and I'm really into it and I'd like to share it with everybody else. Right. And I'd like everybody else to have the best time with it at the same time. Now you are kind of the follow-up with Fiona, what she is saying. So I didn't see myself like that.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because so after so a couple weeks ago when I was in Invermere, so just to give context, so you brought me and a couple of the people that work with me for a kayak trip around the area. I'm still trying to figure out what river flows uphill, but I know I'll figure that out eventually. But afterwards, you had said you were kind of motivated to go for a ride in your flying lawnmower. So then, as we were going up the hill to the brewery, we saw what I'm like, okay, that must be Max coming down because I'm picturing that being like a really, really nice flying lawnmower. And so anyway, when we connected, we met at the brewery for a non-alc beer. And then after that, you brought me to the gliding club to introduce me to the guys. And that was really cool because I don't know if it was like 20 minutes later, they had me up in one of their gliders. And I thought, that obviously would not have been possible without you making that connection. And that kind of doing that to me just seems so seamless. I thought like that must be one of your strengths in life, because there's some people that are just naturally good at that, and it struck me that is something you're just naturally really good at.
It's interesting, yeah. But on the other end, it's actually an interesting point. So I'm a carpenter, software developer, marketer, whatever, building businesses and whatsoever. The interesting part on the end of the day is I'm actually a realtor today, which I never thought I would be a realtor. I go like, come on. I'm not a realtor. I don't like that business way too much because it's so sales driven, right? Mm-hmm. But then on the end, why I became a realtor was a challenge of my kids. Mm-hmm. We looked at some properties and on the end, the kids turned around and go like, oh, my God, Dad, our realtor didn't know anything about this building and didn't know anything about that. They just wanted to sell us something which wasn't even worth it. You should be a realtor. Yeah. And I go, oh, I never will be a realtor. Are you crazy? Blah, 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 blah. And then before I knew it, I trapped into something like you have to go to school type of thing again. Yeah. And the kid's like, oh, Dad, you can go to school. But then I took on this challenge and I have to say, I'm doing this now for 5-6 years. And that's exactly also what it is. I'm a person who likes to connect with people and more so to actually to understand what they really want to go after, what is really the right thing for them. And if you work as a realtor that way, as you're supposed to work, like it only takes 1 or 2 bad apples to make it look bad, right? Mm-hmm. But most of our colleagues we have, they work the same way. They actually work for the client. And then finding the right place for them or finding the right buyer and doing all these kind of things for them is actually very rewarding. And it's actually, I like that. And I think that's kind of where this people connection part comes in right now for me as a little benefit.
Yeah. Well, because some people hesitate to connect others for whatever reason. And then there's some people that are just naturally, as soon as they see a connection or something like that, they're driven to make those connections. So, which obviously, like I gravitate towards, and to your point earlier, it's like, who do you want to hang out with? Like, I want to be around people like yourself that are instinctively connecting, as opposed to seeing like, oh, okay, like for whatever reason, if it doesn't serve me, why would I connect these people, kind of thing,
Yeah, no, I think a good community means there's a lot of good connections. And if you have good connections, and the same thing like this, you can mountaineer and do something on your own, it's great. But if you share it with others, like-minded people, it's tenfold the fun. And it's way more rewarding, right? And that's how I see it.
Yeah. You used a word that I actually really like in your notes. You talked about evolving as a person. So I'm curious, you seem to me like you'd be someone who is always kind of curious. And I actually had a friend of mine correct me. I used to use the word passionate. And she said, a lot of people, being passionate is hard, like to be passionate on a day-to-day basis. She's like, but being curious is something that is easier to kind of be continuously. You can't be continuously passionate, but you can be continuously curious. And I'm curious about you. Is there a topic right now that you're kind of leaning into, just something random that you're kind of trying to learn about?
I always want to learn. And as an example, just last night, somebody came in when we landed and he was saying like, well, you pack the wing this way. I just figured out another way to pack it this and this way. Right. So I always like to see easier or better things, which I either share or like to look at from the moment where I am. And as I said, I always like to do the best of where and what it's there. My next thing is what I really want to do is I want to now learn to fly a helicopter. Then I only have the broom left. So only one more check mark, right?
So why the helicopter, then the broom? Why not the broom, then the helicopter?
Well, I tried to hook up with Harry Potter for a long time, but he didn't even answer my emails yet or my phone calls. Yeah. So that's why. But what I would say, passion is if you know what your passion is, yes, it definitely helps to get you out of bed and do the things what you do, right? Mm-hmm. What makes me go up? I don't know. I just feel like that's a really hard question. How you do this?
It's not easy to stump you.
Yeah, no, I think the most important thing for me is as soon as you get into the world of news, as an example, you watch the news, read the news, and you all see negative things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it that way, you always get down at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I try to get up right away. And first thing I do is to check the weather or see what it is and go like, oh, that sounds good. What can I do really out of it? Because when you create something, what comes out of it, it's rewarding. Mm-hmm. Whether it's for a painter, it's on the end the painting, right? Mm-hmm. For somebody who is in customer service, to work with people and make happy people, it's for them that way, right? Mm-hmm. I just get too fast bored doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then I know that. And so and I like to create things and then pass it on and do multiple things at the same time. Like I go down to the canoe docks meeting people like you, and then an hour later I sell houses. Or back then it was 20 minutes later, I sit in my ultralight and fly around there and then connecting with someone else. And then at the same time, I'm selling a place. And then I'm doing flight lessons in between or working with my kids, right? My boy is quite into hockey. He's a goalie. So that's a complete different mindset and a different kind of workload. I mean, my daughter is now easier. She is in Australia for a year. Mm-hmm. So I don't really have to be that hands-on. Right. Now I'm the guy kind of listening every second day to a phone calls and go like, oh my God, you're doing the right thing. I want to be there too.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. What's she doing? She just kind of backpacking around the country or what's she doing?
Yeah, she's back there. Just, she wants to travel for a year and she's right now with her nanny actually, who has now 2 little kids herself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's a real good connection. And she hooked her up to do some backcountry work. And she's working now as a milkmaid, milking cows for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
It's so fun, it's just to see if they're not sure what they're doing. And that's what I keep saying to people, just do something and try to do the best out of it and have fun with it and gain an experience. Because on the end of the day, I think life is experience.
Yeah.
And not the money you created. I mean, money should come with it automatically, right? I mean, I got lucky where I am today, but no, I'm glad I'm passing this on to my kids that way, that it is passionate about life.
Yeah, no, I like that. One of the things that you said, and maybe we'll leave it here because I'm sure you got some flying to do or a house to sell or something like that. But you said today are the good times. So is that a mantra or is that where does that?
I mean, I figured it out fairly quickly. Is but the saying what I'm saying is today are the good old days. Yeah, because we say quite often, and that's what I heard from a lot of elder and from anybody go like, oh, back then in the good days, it used to be that good, and it used to be this great, and it used to be that, right? But then I realized pretty quick is, that's what they say today. Mm-hmm. In 5 years, they would say, oh, the good days was 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I actually today see this as a bad thing today because the good old days was 5 years ago or 10 years or 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So why don't I just switch my mind and say, the good old days are today. Mm-hmm. And that's how I live on. And that's what I think is the most important thing, is that you have gratitude for what you actually have today. Mm-hmm. And then don't see the negative and see what could be better, should be better, blah, blah. Sure, we want to see that too, but then do something out of it. If you don't do anything out of it, don't bitch and complain. Just leave it, right? And so that's why I really think, yes, and I still do this up to today, is the good old days, I might say back in 5 years when I had that podcast with you, that was the good old days. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly how I live.
Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Thanks for taking the time to bring us kayaking. You gave us a perspective of the area that I had never had before. And even since you and I first met, I actually ran into a woman and they have a place up in Panorama. And I was telling her about the kayaking that we did. And she's like, oh, like they've had a place there for 10 years. She's like, I've never kayaked. Like, how can you kayak? And so it's just so interesting how you can be in a place and you think you know the place. And then when you get introduced to people like you see it in a totally different lens. And so that's what you did with us when we were in Invermere. So I really am grateful that you did that. I should also mention that 10 minutes after being introduced to the guys at the gliding club, they had me up in a glider. So I mean, it was just one of those days where just kind of pinch yourself because it just kept getting better and better. And so
I saw your picture. You took the picture in the plane.
Oh yeah, it was really
it looked
cool.
like if you wouldn't have had ears, you would have smiled all the way around.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I was just like one of those, like, because we were chatting, they're showing us the plane and the glider, and just kind of funny how life works. But one of the guys, Charlie, was my business partner, used to be a school teacher, and he was actually one of his students way back in the day. So kind of a small world. But they're like, well, maybe if you come back tomorrow, we can get you in the plane. And then the one guy's like, why don't we just bring him up right now? And so, yeah, 2 minutes later, we're up in the plane. But to me, that's what I want my life to be is like, how do you kind of create those situations? And, and so, by doing those videos, I get to meet people like you. By doing the podcast, I get to learn more about, people like you. So it's a lot of fun. And like I said, when I first met you, I knew that I wanted to have you on the podcast. I knew there was a lot to learn from you. So I do appreciate you taking the time.
See, I don't see myself at all like that. What you actually picture myself right now. Mm-hmm. I just see myself as a complete average person who does things maybe with a different outlook. And sure, we're all dreamers and we all feel like we are not there where we want to be. But on the end of the day, the last thing I can only say is it's good to dream. But at the same time, you will never do anything if you don't put a plan and action behind it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe just start with small steps. And then all of a sudden you get some good results out of it. And if you're happy with it, that's really what counts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And hopefully I've already told my wife that I'm gonna book a time to do what's it called? The Paris. I'm always butchering the name, but in the winter.
Tandem
with the skis.
Yeah, with skis.
Okay. That'll be out of my comfort zone, but I'll do it. Anyway, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me on there. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to the Create Podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next Wednesday.